vibrant startup scene, with Stockholm being the region with the highest number of unicorns per capita in the world after Silicon Valley. From a government perspective, it is essential to see how we can promote innovation and a competitive industry that paves the way for the digital transformation. Openness and an innovation-friendly approach to regulation, while also supporting public-private partnerships, are key factors in this development. And thanks to this, we can foster innovative startups that quickly grow into global digital leaders. Innovative companies and the private sector drive is a focus during the plenary this afternoon, and I look forward to exploring this topic further with you all. And strengthening Europe's competitiveness is at the core of our presidency. It must be at the top of the political agenda in today's world. If we want the EU to set standards, we must have the economic and technological base to match that ambition. We are happy with the robust way in which the Commission has picked up the competitiveness priority of our presidency. Going forward, digitalization has to be one of the main drivers for long-term European competitiveness. Over the next 2 days, Digital Assembly can be a platform for discussions on how the digital transition can strengthen European competitiveness. Without digitalization, there is no competitiveness. The theme of this year's Digital Assembly, a digital, open and secure Europe, is timely. We are striving to reach the goals of the digital decade in order to harness at all levels the benefits that digital transformation will bring to all of us. We are now experiencing one of the rare moments in global politics where one event becomes the lens through which we view almost everything else. Russia's large-scale aggression against Ukraine is of a nature and a scope that Europe has not experienced since the Second World War. The threats against our societies take different forms and occurs across several domains: political, economic, information, cyber, to name a few. Cyber attacks have in particular been an integrated element of Russia's war against Ukraine. The Swedish government now begins work on a new national information and cybersecurity strategy. We all have to enforce our national cyber security. Cyber threats are by definition cross-border, which means that we have to cooperate in this area. The government will raise our level of ambition and also present a strategy for cyber and digital issues in foreign policy. A special envoy for international cyber affairs will be appointed. EU and NATO are key venues where we can work together to counter cyber threats. During the Swedish Presidency, Council conclusions on the EU policy on cyber defense have been adopted, and work on the further development of EU cyber diplomacy toolbox is underway, to just mention 2 examples. As we all know, the potential of digital technologies is enormous. It creates opportunities for societies to grow and prosper, while giving individuals easier access to information and education when the right conditions are in place. And bridging the digital divide is one of the main challenges of our time. This must be done in order to fulfill the potential of the digital transformation. It is an important step towards global equality and cohesion, which will benefit us all. As our societies become more and more digital, we need to make sure that no one is left behind and ensure that the transformation puts people at the center, and that human rights are ensured online as well as offline. Digitalization has been called the fourth industrial revolution, and rightly so. Those countries that are not at the forefront of development risk missing important opportunities. For example, digitalization is crucial for the green transition and the digital single market, characterized by openness, innovation, and competition. During the Digital Assembly, representatives of the public and private sector will discuss the challenges that we are facing, but also opportunities opened by the continued transition towards a digital, secure, and open Europe. So I believe that we will have many great and fruitful discussion during these next 2 days. So let's the conference start, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. And now, a warm welcome to welcoming remarks from Brussels. It's my honor to introduce the European Commissioner for Internal Markets, Thierry Bert. Thank you. It's glad when you have an audience who knows the speaker as well.
Welcome to the 2023 Digital Assembly. I would like to take a moment to thank Minister Eric Slotner and his team for hosting this assembly and for running a successful Council presidency. Congratulations on your achievement, and I'm confident you will go even further in the remaining 15 days of your mandate. We are currently facing challenging times in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. Continuing with business as usual is simply not an option. And that is why, with the digital decade, we have set ambitious targets to be achieved by 2030. However, if we look at where we stand today, we are lagging behind. We need to accelerate our actions and we need to work together. No member state can succeed in the digital transition alone. And that is why the Digital Assembly is so important, because it brings people and ideas together to combine our efforts and to build a stronger union. We have already done a lot together. We have reorganized our information space, or digital space, based on 5 pillars. First, we started 4 years ago with artificial intelligence. And we are now squaring the circle with the finalization of the AI Act, which will foster investment and innovation in full respect of fundamental rights. Second, the DSA has established a global standard to make the Internet a safer space. Third, with the DMA, we have created a level playing field for businesses in digital market. And with the Data Governance Act, we have increased trust in data sharing and supported launch of common European data spaces in strategic sectors such as health. Finally, the Data Act. The Data Act will stimulate a market for industrial data and drive innovation. And I count on the Swedish Presidency and the Parliament to reach an agreement on this pillar very soon. So we have also taken collective actions to protect our information space against growing cyber threats. For example, with the adoption of the Cyber Resilience Act and the Cyber Solidarity Act. I expect good progress in this area under the Spanish presidency. Last but not least, to empower citizens and businesses unlock the potential of digital services anywhere in Europe, we have proposed a European digital identity wallet. I'm confident that also this piece of our new digital toolbox will become law under the Swedish presidency. However, to deliver on the digital decade, we also need ambitious investment. The Recovery and Resilience Facility, the Digital Europe Programme, and Horizon Europe, these are crucial tools for advancing in quantum, semiconductors, and supercomputers. But we must accelerate infrastructure investment. At least 174 billion euros investment are needed until 2030, without continuing the upgrades for advanced capabilities such as edge computing. And we need more joint investment between member states and the Union. Now, we have a tool for this purpose, the European Digital Infrastructure Consortia. And I am glad to announce that a number of edicts are well on the way to be adopted this year. Ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by wishing you fruitful discussions at the Digital Assembly. I am convinced that you will take the most of this event to drive for us forward in the delivery of our digital decade. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, our Minister and the Director General has outlined the why, the how on a top line, and we now have 2 days to dive into how. Digitalization, infrastructure, security, competitiveness, policies, different types of technology. We have now officially kicked off the Digital Assembly 2023, and the ambition is to inspire, challenge, discuss, hopefully mentally marinate all these concepts, all these aspects of achieving our digital ambitions and our European values. And you ask yourself, European values? It sounds cute, bit of a buzzword. It's easy to say, throw in here and there, European values. As a war rages in Europe, inequality on the rise, and looming climate collapse, our joint European values have never been more important to uphold and safeguard. And for those of you who, like me, also love the techie side of digitalization, I assure you this conference will not disappoint. We will have the why, the mission, and the how. I'd also be curious to see what else the room expects. And we have a tool to share, which is called Menti, which will allow you to share with us your expectations for the conference. And here you'll see the code is on top of the screen there. So while you take up your phones and go to menti.com, enter the code and share with us your expectations for the conference. I will give you a bit of admin, which is always good to know. There will be live subtitling throughout the conference, as you can see on the screen. There's a QR code out on the signs outside and on the screen from now and then, where you can simply scan it and follow on your mobile phone as well as the screens. We will be taking pictures throughout the conference. If you don't want to participate and you don't want to be featured, please let us know and we will have that fixed. We also have an illustrator. Maria Richter-Simsek will be around in the different sessions, listening in and drawing a beautiful visualization of everything that we've said, the opportunities, the risks, the whys, the hows, the whats. And I assure you, in 2 days' time, you will be very glad that you'll have a visual representation, allowing you to remember all the things that we've said, allowing you to prioritize, and when you leave for the weekend, you know how to plan your thinking and your meditation, because we will cover a lot of ground. As you might have seen at the lunch, there is the networking village, where our contributors and participants show and will give you a better understanding of the flow of what a digital, open, secure Europe entails. I see that we soon have some answers here. The options that you were given were cybersecurity, connectivity and ICT, data and AI, quantum tech, the European identity, digital transition, and digital skills. Well, clearly the hype of AI is also prevalent in this room, but I'd say it's an even heel. Mr. Minister, I think we should be pleased. They're interested in all of the things that we want to highlight during these next 2 days. More votes are coming in. As you can tell, we have a lot of ground to cover. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's good for you to know that at 5 p.m. we'll have drinks in the sun, and a networking dinner at 6:30 in a few different locations. Please follow the signs, enjoy the exhibition, enjoy networking. This is also an opportunity for us to meet and enhance our network, because this is not a one-man band or a one-woman band. This is a team effort, which I think you'll see throughout all our sessions. So take the opportunity to reach out during all our networking and meet the people that will be your next collaborators, your next partners. And I think I can conclude that data and AI is the winner of your expectations, but all of you will get your needs satisfied. I'm guessing you're as excited as I am. And without further ado, welcome to the Digital Assembly 2023 for an open, secure, resilient Europe. Let the show begin. And welcome to Plenary 1, delivering on the digital decade. We're diving right into the core of this conference. EU's digital transformation by 2030 is to become a leader in digital, to ensure that digitalization is at the core, that's at the service of citizens and businesses. The Digital Decade Policy Programme is the first overarching strategy for the Union's digital transformation. It includes a vision, concrete objectives, targets, digital rights, and principle, as well as a governance mechanism to ensure a steady implementation. I'd like to welcome you to 45 minutes of what's cooking in Europe's digital decade and how are we delivering on our targets. I have an esteemed panel that I'd like to welcome up. Deputy Director General DG Connect of the European Commission, Renate Nicolai. The Investment Committee Member for Research, Innovation and Digitalization Policy Window, Invest EU Fund, Laura Blanche-Brunat. The Director General of Digital Governance in the General Secretary of the Digital Governance and Simplification Procedures of Greece, Antonio Stasis. Co-founder and CTO of Infoblip, Isabel Jelenic, and the Director General for Simplification and Digitalization, Belgium, Jack Hammond. Please welcome up. Welcome. We have a lot of ground to cover, and I think we should kick off with a bit of a video. there's nothing like a bit of goosebumps to start the session, right? I feel all empowered. Renate, you are Deputy Director at DJ Connect. Please, could you set the scene? Give us an insight to where we are as we have embarked on this digital decade. Maybe some big risks, some big opportunities.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy indeed to be here at the Digital Assembly with all of you here in Stockholm to take stock of where we are regarding Europe's digital transformation. And I would like to start by saying I think we're really living in a new era because we are living in the post-digital decade program era. This is a program where we have, as you have already heard, given us very clear targets for 2030. And we are also, in a couple of weeks' time, going to present our first digital decade report. What I can share with you already here today is that if we are not taking a different gear, we will not make it by 2030 because the figures are not looking great. So as the Commissioner has been saying in his welcome message, we really need a wake-up call and we need urgent action. To start, there is really more investment needed to come to the gigabit connectivity. As you will see in the screen, if it works, we are aiming by 2030 for a 100% coverage of very high capacity network, and we are by now at around 73%. So also we need to equip our business much better for the digitalization. As the screen also shows, they are really not scoring really great. They are at 40% when it comes to big data, they are at 34% when it comes to cloud, at 8% when it comes to AI. This means at the moment our business is really not ready for the digital age. And also we are still unfortunately a very long way to go when it comes to digital skills, where we are currently at 9.4 million ICT specialists, whereas we have given ourselves the target of 20 million by 2030 at least. So we really need to continue our efforts jointly to fully digitalize also the public sector so that it's really ready for citizens and for business. And a final remark, we also need the well-driven digitalization, as was mentioned earlier, as a strong ally to reducing emissions and to achieving also the green targets, because as we know, green and digital transition have to go hand in hand. So for Europe to become truly digital, we really need to join forces, and as was said, no country can do this on their own. This is, by the way, also what Europeans are thinking. We did a recent Eurobarometer, and 4 out of 5 Europeans consider that member states should really collaborate more to increase joint investments in digital technology. And this is also what a Digital Decade program is offering with the idea of multi-country projects. I'm therefore really happy to also see common commitments between member states on this, in particular regarding the new tool that we have developed in the Digital Decade program, the European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, the so-called EDICS. As you can see in the next slide, please, we have very interesting potential ones in important areas such as AI, language technology, blockchain, data spaces, or cyber. EDICS are a relatively new tool, as I said. They have legal personality and they are meant to be more flexible and more quick. They can be adapted to their task and they can provide services, they can own and operate infrastructures. And I'm so grateful that member states have engaged in this exercise so well. They've been working in dedicated groups together to elaborate ideas on projects to be implemented by EDICS. We have received one formal application for an EDIC already in the area of blockchain. And on top of that, we are, having the expression of interest for 7 more, EDICs. And we are really excited about the potential impact of these projects. Let me just guide you a little bit through them. So the mobility and logistic data EDIC aims to facilitate access, sharing, and reuse of data. The Alliance for Language Technologies would establish a European-wide infrastructure and technology center in the field of natural language processing, very topical in the context of ChatGPT. ChatGPT. The digital twin for cities will help build carbon neutral, resilient, inclusive and sustainable cities that are closer to citizens. And the Genome One would enhance individual personalized medicine and provide an infrastructure supporting genome-based medicine research and innovation. So I would really like to thank member states for their engagement on this, for their cooperation on the potential edicts with us, because they can really help us to make concrete progress towards the digital transition and to bring us where Europe should be in a leadership position on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for setting the scene, and your sense of urgency in terms of message is received clear. And let's dive into how we address that. We have a panel. Let's briefly introduce ourselves and our main take into this topic, and then dive into it. Please.
Then I'm 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Jack Amand. I'm from Belgium, and especially from the public services BOSA, who is in charge of simplification and digitalization, among other tasks that we have.
Hi everyone, my name is Isabel. I'm CTO and co-founder of Infobip. Infobip is a first creation unicorn, and we grew from 2006 to people then. Today there are 3,500 people worldwide. We have more than 60 offices worldwide, and our core business is cloud communication. We are working with more than 600 operators, telco operators worldwide, and we provide biggest communication backbone in the world. And I'm really happy to be part of this digital assembly, because being a core IT guy, I really am happy and excited to be able to contribute to digitalization of Europe.
And what we will dive into in a second will be that you've participated in one of these edicts as a private entity. So we're going to talk about the private-public aspect of that.
Yes, I was actually surprised that you were the only private entity that was part of such a program.
Well, you're pioneering. You're so an inspiration. Please.
Okay, my name is Antonis Tassis. I work for the Greek Ministry of Digital Governance, and especially for the General Secretariat of Simplification of Procedures and Digital Governance. Our effort is to prepare the status of Greece regarding to the digital decade targets, and this is very difficult task, and we try to coordinate all the public agencies, authorities, ministries in order to achieve all these very nice targets on time.
And finally, Laure.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure. It's an honor to be here today. I am here in capacity of investment committee member of InvestEU. So just in a nutshell, InvestEU is a program funded by the EU budget, where there's a 26.2 billion guarantee fund to support strategic and sustainable investments that are in line with EU policies. And notably, I think in line with the digital decade ambitions, the InvestEU has quite a strong budget on digitalization, research and innovation, the RID window, as we call it. This is where I'm operating, and we have 6.6 billion euro to spend there exactly on projects that would deliver the target that Renata just commented on.
So your role in the panel is also very clear, identifying the investment and the gap there and how to allocate. So we'll dive into that. But Jack, let's start with you. You have been part of edicts. Could you give us the Belgian input? How does it work? What are your hopes and ambitions?
I think that what we are welcoming is the initiative by the Commission to launch this initiative, because I think it was engaging with the member states to identify a number of subjects which are very relevant for all of us. If we talk about, for example, genomic, if we talk about, for example, languages and analytics, if we talk about mobility, all those challenges we are facing every day, especially in Brussels, but I'm not sure I have to share that. But when we look to that, we are just reinventing the wheel every day. And if we are reinventing the wheel every day, means that we are searching ourselves, we are developing ourselves, we are testing ourselves, and so on. And for all those social, environmental, and societal challenges, we have much more to learn from each other and work together. This is why the EDIC is a huge opportunity, and that's why we expressed our interest together with our colleagues with the different entities in Belgium, which are regions, which are local authorities, to engage, at least in the first stage, to make a sort of analysis where we can be involved in edicts, and to mention a few of them, so we express interest, for example, for mobility, as I said, local twins, and genomics and language in particular. And we put a more focus together with other member states on blockchain, because we believe there that is a lot of attention also, but I can come back on that in a moment.
Yes, we would love to hear a bit more details of how the blockchain works, just to give a feel for how the process is. But Antonios, from your point of view, you are part of a pre-notified the Innovation Public Administration edict. Could you tell us about that work and what you hope to achieve?
Okay, practically I was honored to be member of the Digital Decade Board, and there was a very interesting call about proposals, what we need to do. And as Greece, we prepared our proposal, we submitted them, and afterwards we were amazed about the similar issues and things that other member states proposed, very excellent issues and approaches, and we said, okay, this is the great opportunity to create something for public administration. And very quickly, a working group was established with the support of European Commission, of course, and we tried to consolidate to achieve what? To achieve better public services. We have a target of the 100% of the digital public services online, to have the personnel in public administration that can do all this work, to have the private sector with us, because a lot of things are being done using the private sector, either as a member of the edict or as pre-commercial procurements. And we also we were motivated with a lot of European policies related, for instance, the forthcoming Interoperable Europe Act, the forthcoming innovation actions about digital hubs and all this stuff. And all this came together, not forgetting that we need to have a great communication with businesses and people. So we need something that will facilitate, will move the communication and the way that we interact with them in another space. And here we have experience from InfoBip and other member states. So I feel that we will be able, and I hope this is our vision, to reuse the practices that were expressed in the previous breakout session for public administration that I was jealous about, and I would like to have all of them in Greece. So this is the the scope.
There is the sense of urgency, the jealousy. We want to have it in Greece. Brilliant. But I think that it bridges perfectly to what we were discussing earlier. What is the public-private opportunity, and what has been your experience so far? And potentially use the opportunity to address some of the things that you would want more of moving further.
Yes, I think it is a great opportunity actually, because from my perspective, we are not working with public sector too much. We are mostly, we are targeting working with banks, with operators, and working with public sector can sometimes be slow, and not always.
The quote of the decade.
But we have also counter examples. I remember during when COVID hit, we created some chatbot that was really immediately implemented in a few European countries together with some out of, I think we did it in India also. So it showed us that it is possible when there is sense of urgency, really, it is possible to execute some project on a big scale, and it was very effective. People could really had the information about the COVID, about numbers, about when there is lack of information. I was really surprised how it worked very well in that regard. So I think the being fast is really important, and partnering with partnering public sector and private sector, this synergy, I think everybody can learn a lot and can make it all together better. Because as we heard in this introduction, being fast and is really the key here, because things are changing really fast, and we have to be able to react fast. And this is something that surely can get if we work together, because we have experience by burning in, I don't know, in US market, in APAC regions. We know and can feel the pressure and how it works, and how fast you need to be, especially now when, as you I guess majority of you knows, like in the last 6 months, everything changed due to generative AI and having these large language models, and it changes everything. There are a lot of new jobs opening. It will be a lot of changes in the jobs, changes how people work together, changes how people do their jobs. So the change will happen. So we have really to be fast and to be able to adapt quickly to the changes.
I'm sensing a dance of slow and quick here, but clearly digitalization is moving at a pace. Technologies are expanding and exploring, and you were mentioning that we need to gear up. Could you dive into the hows? How do the member states need to work? How do we do this?
Well, I think what we're hearing here is actually, to showcase that the big advantage of the fact that we have for the first time a program that is not only driven by a Commission idea, but actually a program that has been negotiated and finalized together with the European Parliament and with all member states, driven by the urgency that, if we really want to kind of sustain our future competitiveness, we need to meet those targets. I think that's a very powerful tool. And I think what we are seeing here is that we have unicorns. We have some member states, being front runners, like we heard from the minister, Sweden, in some areas. But I think what is missing is that we are not kind of, matching it together at the right moment to scale up together immediately and to kind of,
the orchestra.
Exactly. And I think, as we have seen in the COVID crisis, we kind of did things that we thought we would never be able to do because everybody was nervous about data protection and whatever. And I think we are in a phase where we are trying, because of the disruptive, big transitions that we are living in, the digital and the green, we are trying new things. And I think what we're trying here with the EDIC is also to shake up the system a little bit. And why having a unicorn in the north and in the south not talking to each other, or having an administration, in Greece and in Finland not talking to each other? Why not from the start, bringing the best practices together and also kind of showing the concrete application so that then the bankers can come in and it can scale up. So that's a little bit the idea. It's really to kind of create that momentum. We had too much silos in the past and too much lack of connection. It's not yet perfect because I'm dealing a lot with the colleagues, in the Digital Decade Board, and it requires coordination in each member state as well. So we are trying it from the Commission to bring this together to create the EDIC kind of, phase. But on the other hand, it's also a challenge for the colleagues in the member states to coordinate it within their systems at the national level, at the kind of the sub-national level, federal level, regional level. It has to go down into the local communities if we are thinking about, digital twins for cities, for instance. But what I feel strongly is that it created a push and we just have to sustain it. And that's why events like this are so important to showcase and to get us moving to the next phase.
Because even though we joked about bureaucracy being slow, your point was actually you were surprised that it was relatively quick when needed to be. And I think we need to capitalize on that surprise and that energy. And she referred to the bankers, so I will refer to the bankers. Bringing in the bankers, which is always the scapegoat in the terms of the big bottleneck. How do you see this panning out?
Yeah, definitely not the most lovable person in the room. That's right. Scapegoat, I don't know. But yes, well, it's actually the core of my job with InvestEU, but also with my day-to-day job in external action. It's about that. It's about bringing together the governments, the industry, and institutional investors together on the same agenda. And I think the good news is that we see here on the panel that there's some appetite from the private, from governments to work more together. And the EDIC is one of the example of this. But it's true also for institutional investors. And if you look at what's happening, if we look at really large institutional investors, they are really looking for new investment strategies that can be more aligned with government's long-term objectives. Also because we are in a geopolitical moment where things get a bit tense. So US, European investors really want to be aligned with their government and with their industrial interest in their countries. And I'm talking here of long-term investors. There's also a sort of a lot of disappointment in the financial industry about the short-termism that led us to basically basically the climate and the crisis that we are going through today. So that's the landscape. Maybe quickly on the edX, because that's it was referred as an example which is promising. I think the flexibility element is key. It's typically what we hear from Isabel is fundamental in terms of investment. It's the time to market. It's something which is usually killed quite quickly when we go into a public-private partnership. So the fact that this is a flexible legal entity, a legal instrument, that is very attractive for investors. It's also the fact that it's potentially supporting bankable projects with industry being involved as much as the public side. And then last but not least, it's really about scaling up efforts. And we are on issues there. If you look at the list Renata presented earlier, where I think none of the countries think they can do it alone. And if you look at the industry or the investor landscape that would be interested in jumping in this project, they would feel the same, that the solution needs to be done at the EU level, and single country solutions will not be very effective.
Plus, I assume timeline plays a part here, and we were speaking about it in the breakout session before lunch on interconnectivity. It's both a commercial opportunity, but there's depth to that. There's more than just the commercial opportunity. And maybe from a financial point of view, that is translated into time. It's not only 3, 5, 7 years investment horizon. How do you discuss the timeline of these projects?
Well, my area, and especially with InvestEU, if you look at InvestEU, is implemented through so-called implementing partners, and they are all on a long-term investment strategy. So clearly we are talking here, the investors that would be attracted eventually to edX, they would have patient capital involved. So we are not, I think, most of the time. Maybe you will have venture capitalists being potentially interested in some, like the languages EDIC, which is targeting also the involvement of SMEs. That might be, but then even then, the venture capital crowd that would be attracted to that would be on a 7-8 years horizon minimum, I think. So that's not, the time is not, it's actually where the three parties would be quite aligned. The challenge is, I think it's more in the delivery, because the concept seems interesting, seems nice. It's exactly, as I said, it's exactly in the core of the preoccupation that the investor industry has today, how to align better their investment strategies with government and industry. The governance, how these edicts will eventually be set up and work, it might be different from what's on paper. And that's where the investors might be deterred or attracted, depending how things are implemented.
It might be different than what it says on paper. Brilliant. And from a Belgian point of view, if we take this into consideration, how do you plan the process of, for example, the blockchain edict? How do you see the time horizons? How do you see the financing? How do you see working with member states?
First of all, I have to make a comment to my neighbor. Public sector are going very fast. I've never been so fast than before, and sometimes private sector should accelerate a bit, but we can discuss that a bit offline. Then about the edict, then we see three horizons. The short term is that, of course, we will discuss with the Commission about to set up the structure. We already prepared document for filing the notification. We gave examples of what we would like to achieve, and then we have to agree if we are in the right scope to make sure that we can set up the structure. The second horizon will be to focus and leverage about existing work which has been done. I don't want to be too complex just after the lunch for the whole audience, but if you remember, blockchain is not new. There were already initiatives which has been financed, developed in different member states, and of course, it's not to say something else and we restart from zero. We will leverage what has been done before, especially in the blockchain, building nodes and so on, and we will try to scale up from cases that we will identify as being relevant for all the members and citizens and enterprise, and we'll also make sure that we can build them on the infrastructure that is already existing and scaling this infrastructure up.
And when you say cases, that's private parties?
No, it's public and private.
Public and private.
You know, when we are discussing, and especially in the digital decade goals and also all the other initiatives we have at the European level, for example, developing more trust services between public and private sector, between the citizen and enterprise, citizen and of course private companies and public services in all directions, ensuring that the citizens will be capable to manage himself, his data and so on, and share those data in a trust way, that we can make sure that we can certify it. Then all those kind of things is bringing a incredible number of cases, and we hope that the private sector will be a bit creative in this case, and then we will create those cases and generate them and propose them. In the public services between citizens and government, we see already a number of fantastic use case. You know, when we have to apply for a job from one country in Europe to another, one of the key things that we have to provide, every one of us, is, for example, a diploma. A diploma is quite a relevant use case that we can present. Then, just to make the story a bit shorter, then building on those case, then the second reason will be leveraging those use case and operations, delivering services in different countries, and making it real for everybody. And the third reason will be, of course, the sky. And why the sky? Because at the time we will just make sure that it's working on all this different triangle. Finance will run to us to give us money that maybe we will assess if we need it, because it will be so successful.
Finance will run to you.
Yes, probably, because those EDICs, if they are working well, will attract energy, and we have a huge amount of energy in Europe. And last but not least, EDIC should contribute, of course, to make the digital decade real. We were talking about skills. The EDIC on blockchain, but also the others, should generate a tremendous interest of young people, less young people, to train themselves, to rescale them in terms of skills. Of course, adoption of those technologies and cases in general in the private sector and also in the public sector will be very important. Then we really believe that the EDIC that we are proposing together with 20 members interested, 10 members are in the pole position for participating, and we have already, I don't know, I need to see from the room, about 6 already signing intention to be really in it. I think this is showing that Europe would like to take the lead on those initiatives, and thank you very much to the Commission and everybody for that.
And team is the foundation piece here. The amount of member states, the amount of participants to make it happen.
But what is interesting is that, like Antonio said, and we share the same job on every day with simplification, we saw that it was interest from the 3, let's say, stakeholders group. Governance, definitely we have the same issue, then we have to work together. And EDIC is a vehicle to achieve that. The second one, it's about academics. They are just already working together, and I think the EDICs can transform the research to practical things in the field. And the third one, which is also very interesting, private sector is suddenly seeing this is a huge opportunity to work in other environment, just to accelerate from a private sector point of view, because of course private sector saw that public sector is leading and they would like to follow up. No,
absolutely.
Yeah,
I really like all those things, and I really support it. I think they all really make sense. Put it all together.
Clearly. And before we start concluding, Antonio, could you share you've got
one thing.
Comment on pace.
Yeah, one comment. Practically, yes, we have research institutes, academia, we have public administration, we have public sector, but we have also civil society, because this is our customers, this is our clients, this is what they say to us, at least for public administration, what we need. And the second, I think that we should, ethics is a brilliant idea, because practically brings people together that they do not have the anxiety as a consortium that when the project ends will be resolved. So it's important in terms of sustainability. It's important that the same people, the same group, the same teams will continue to work after the end of the project and try to see how this can be exploited. And I think this is very important for sustainability of solutions that we already have a lot.
And could you give us a bit of practical insights there? How are you recruiting other member states to work on your projects?
Well, practically, what we try to do, we try to do a lot of communication in specific working groups. For instance, in the interoperability expert group, for instance, the delivery expert group, that they have solutions, that they have something in mind, they have common target, common issue. So we will continue in this aspect. We try to see open accounting issues that are related with taxation authorities and all the stuff. So we try to engage all of them and try to, and this is the challenge, and this is the next step that we need to do, is to do the definition, the prioritization of our implementation strategy, because there are a lot of needs, a lot of topics, and we need somehow to...
On the topic of pace, slow down. So what is the challenge and the main priority? That is to translate how to move forward and how to set priorities. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's the process for that?
Practically, we will continue afterwards. That's the way we pre-notified. We will continue from the next months in order to see their needs in member states, to see the common things, to see the potential funding that exists and can be exploited, and try to set up an annual, biannual program that we will start working with this. And this is the most challenging issue at this stage that we are. And we hope that by September we will make this work.
Renate, you said there's a sense of urgency. We need to step up. We're not on time to hit our targets. But here we have some enthusiastic, lots of ideas, lots of energy. How do you marry these things, and what will be your priority moving forward now?
I think we will have to continue to play as Commission the role to kind of bring the things together and to coordinate. We have a so-called multi-country project accelerator, so it's really the platform where, you know, the ideas can flow together. And we will, of course, also now be a partner with, in particular, the member states who take the lead on the individual edicts, to help them to kind of set the priorities, move it to the next stage. As was mentioned, there has to be a commitment to support the edict. It can be financial, it can be in kind, because we have to get it started so that it's not only a nice idea, but actually for real. We will also have to take into account that the edicts are not all at the same level and not all in the same way. Blockchain, as was mentioned, had already a good preparatory phase. I think this, for me, is a low-hanging fruit edict that should show application and user examples very, very soon. Public administration is super important, but also a hard nut to crack, because that's really where we also have to kind of combine different traditions, but where I see a huge potential, because it can create the peer pressure that we also need amongst member states to see, hey, something is going on here. And then you have more kind of really edicts, genomics, where it's still a little bit more in the research kind of phase. But the idea is really for all of them to kind of keep the spirit of joining forces and also put it into a phase where it can lead to concrete application. These are not only research, consortia. These are kind of ideas to work together to come to concrete application cases. And I think that's a powerful kind of message from the edicts, and the enthusiasm is really, really, really welcome, and we will continue to support.
And I think the powerful message is what I'd like to underline as well, just seeing them from the minister, from the commissioner, from all of you. It's also a storytelling issue. Yes. This is an adventure. We're embarking on something where we're building in a new chapter. And the option would be, frankly, either catastrophic or boring not to do it. And I see there is a very inspiring panel showcasing some of the good things that you're doing, but also highlighting where we need to do more, and a bit of a debate about the pace around it. I would like to end with a quote from the President from her State of the Union speech. We must make Europe's digital decade. We need a common plan for digital Europe, with clearly defined goals for 2030, as such for connectivity, skills, and digital public services. We need to follow clear principles: the right to privacy and connectivity, freedom of speech, free flow of data, and cybersecurity. So Our job is clear. We have work to do. Thank you so much. And for us, that means that we need a coffee break. We need to recaffeinate, mentally marinate all that has been said, and be back here in roughly half an hour for plenary session number 2. Thank you. Thank you.
try. You hear me?
Welcome back from coffee. Recaffeinated, delicious apple, ready for plenary 2, towards a thriving single market for data. Data is the new black. Well, actually, it's not that new. Data collection, data flow, data speed, data security. And we are here to do the data dance for the next 45 minutes. The purpose of this session is to discuss the status of Europe's data economy, focusing on how to foster competition, innovation and security. We will highlight the need for long-term predictable frameworks, emphasizing the role of the recently adopted Data Governance Act and the upcoming Data Act. And the question we ask ourselves is, how do we work to increase trust in data sharing? For our opening remarks, I would like to welcome the Swedish Minister for Public Administration, Mr. Erik Slottner.
Thank you so much, Aurore, and good to see you again. I hope you had a great moment, that you had a great, event or seminar here before. This topic now, data sharing and data, may be quite technical sometimes, at least it is for me. But it is a prerequisite for a successful digitalization, and not least when it comes to AI, which is on everyone's agenda nowadays. So this is a very interesting and a very important topic that we will discuss now the following 45 minutes or the following hour. I don't really remember how it is. So I will just give a short introduction to this planner that we will have now. The green transition and strengthening the EU's competitiveness are priorities for the Swedish presidency. And the digital transformation is key in this topic. Data is crucial for digital and societal development, for economic growth, for innovation and job creation, strengthening the EU's competitiveness. So not everyone is thinking about data as a prerequisite for competitiveness, but it is for the long-term competitiveness and for economic growth. It's important to remind that. Access to data can simply be described as a core element in digitalization. Data, which is refined, created and provided by private companies, is of great value to society, and it takes the form of services and products we are using in everyday life. We also benefit from data-driven innovation from the private sector in our daily life. Data-driven innovation creates value to all of us. Smart, appropriate and future-proof regulation that protects accessibility and creates trust are prerequisites for data sharing. Data needs to meet quality requirements and to be handled wisely and comply with European standards. The directive on open and reuse public sector information in the European data strategy is one stepping stone setting out a framework for use of data within the European Union. It provides common rules for a European market for government-held data, and the directive is built around two key strands of the single market: transparency and fair competition. I am also thinking about the European Data Government Act. Once fully implemented, it has the potential to bring benefits to the EU citizens and companies. The Act is central to the ambitions of the European data strategy and aspires to increase trust in data sharing, strengthening mechanisms to increase data availability and overcome technical obstacles to the reuse of data. So building common European data spaces in strategic domains involving both private and public players could play a key role for the green transition. And we also need secure, powerful digital infrastructures which private and public actors can trust when developing and using data for digital technology such as AI. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown that we all benefited greatly from insightful and timely data sharing provided by private businesses. Openly sharing data and code, data reuse and collaboration have proven to be important tools for the rapid pace of research needed in critical situations. Sweden's Science for Life Laboratories is a great example of harnessing the power of data together with European partners to the benefit of society and individuals. Science for Life Laboratories is a horizontal data-driven network between Sweden's universities and linked to European and international public and private partners. Together with other organizations, they provided capabilities for analyzing and inhibit the impact of COVID-19 by sharing data openly with both private and public actors. Another example on how European projects are contributing to a thriving data economy are the efforts on digitalizing the common European agricultural sector and the potential to revolutionize industry within the work for a common European data space on agriculture. This and other common European data spaces will eventually build a European framework for secure, human-centric and trusted data sharing for private entrepreneurs and innovators. Harnessing agricultural data can improve sustainability and profitability on framing operations. Smart and effective use of data has become a strategic issue for farming as well as for global food production. So at national level, the Swedish Board of Agriculture is funding a consortium to develop a national agri-food data platform. The consortium consists of a mix of banks, universities, food producers, farming cooperatives and businesses communities. The aim is to facilitate safe, secure and efficient data relevant to agri-food actors. Smarter use of data can also play a key role in accelerating the green transition of the agri-food industry. European investments in research and innovation, such as Digital Europe program, provide opportunities for European businesses. So we have many good examples on how Europe is thriving in embracing the digital development, all playing their part in accelerating the green transition. I have just mentioned two examples from the agri-food and life science sectors, which hopefully can act as inspiration for today's discussion. So with that said, I wish you now a fruitful discussion on building a thriving European data economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, for setting the scene, reminding us of the importance and highlighting some of the great examples. And now we have a panel to further dive in to what we've outlined here. I'd like to welcome the panel. I'd like to welcome back up Deputy Director of DG Connect, Renata Nicolai, the Digital Manager at IKEA Sweden, Björn Block, VP Market and Subscriptions Spotify, Gustav Gyllenhammar, the COO and the co-founder of Insurely, Lotta Rauseus, and the Senior Vice President, Verisure Group, Anders Blauenfeld. Please welcome them up. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Hi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Please have a seat. Renata, I think we found a flow here. Would you like to start? You are the Deputy Director of DG Connect, and obviously the data dance and the data securities flows, everything, and trust is core of everything that we discussed in the previous plenary. Could you set the scene here from a data point of view?
Thank you very much, Aurora, and happy to be back again. And indeed, I would like to kind of pick up on what our Commissioner Breton, said in his welcoming kind of speech. I think what we're seeing in Europe is a fascinating development over the last couple of years to kind of, regulate the information space in our European way. And I mean, we've started with the strong rules on data protection as the foundation. We brought in trust and fairness and order in the platform economy. We have then adopted the data strategy to untap the potential of data for the data economy. And especially for Europe, given that we will create so much industrial data through the IoT and through the development of future connectivity, it's so crucial that we embrace this possibility. And it's really in this context, and to follow up on the minister's speech, that we have to look at the Data Governance Act and the Data Act, because those are interesting new models where we actually say, let's try to create a really truly European data market where we can support more innovation, where we avoid locked-in structures, even from manufacturers. When you think, especially also on linking the green and the digital, so you think of smart energy solutions in big houses, you think of smart agriculture. There's huge potential if you break the systems of locked-in structures, that if we can untap the potential of the data use, if the user is also empowered to share the data with third parties, so that everybody keeps on their toes and innovation can flourish, we can get much better in Europe. At the moment, as a last comment, we are only using 20% of the data that we really generate, industrial data, and we have to kind of come to a higher level of usage of data. This is very much the spirit of the current legislative pieces that we are working on, in particular the Data Act, and that we are very hopeful that we will still finalize under the Swedish presidency.
So, reading between the lines, there's huge opportunities, there are risks involved, trust is there, and there's more data to be harnessed. And now we have a panel to dive into what that means in practical terms. Please, let's start with a quick round introductions and your where you fly into this topic. Let's start with you, Björn.
Thank you. Well, my name is Björn Block. I'm a digital manager in range in IKEA, so Inter IKEA Group. And my starting point into this, obviously, I'm responsible for the every data and technology that's related to our products, our range, and also the digital products and products that are both and, meaning the physical range that is connected, so the smart home part of that where IKEA is stepping in. So that's where I'm heading from.
And we look forward to hearing how you've developed that. Please.
Thank you, Aurora. My name is Gustav Gyllenhammar. I'm the Vice President for Markets and Subscriptions at Spotify. Data is obviously the oxygen of our platform that is loved by more than 500 million consumers and tens of millions of creators out there. So you couldn't use our product without the data foundations of it. So whether it's the Discover Weekly, the product you get every week, whether it's your annual Wrapped sort of cultural water moment that you get inside of Spotify, everything we build is built on data foundation and bringing that out to consumers and creators. So
Did you like my data dance reference?
Did see that.
It was for you.
See that.
And before we continue, let me just remind you guys that we have an open question session within Menti. So for everyone online as well as in the room, please open up Menti and ask questions to the panel. And Laura here will help me once we have questions. Please, Lotta.
Yes, thank you very much. And so given that we are the most unknown of brands here on stage, I just want to give you a quick get to know us pitch. So I'm Lotta Roseus, I'm co-founder and COO at Insurely. And we founded Insurely back in 2018, driven by our frustration with how inaccessible and non-transparent insurance and pension is. Today we are a B2B SaaS company revolutionizing the insurance industry. So through our technology and our real-time data access of insurance and pension data, we help insurance companies and banks to build the next generation insurance experiences. And this really has a lot of benefits for both the industry and for consumers. And today we are Europe's leading data sharing provider of insurance and pension data. And we're very proud of our Swedish and European roots, and we kind of follow in the footsteps of other trailblazers such as Tink, for example. And now we hope to be the next model of success for other data sharing companies in the financial space.
Thank you. And Anders, finally.
Yes, thanks for inviting me and us here as well. My name is Anders Blauenfeldt. I'm a Danish national, but I work in Sweden, in Malmö. And I represent the Verisure Group. We are operating in 17 countries now, in mainly Europe, but also South America. We are in 13 countries in Europe. We are now headquartered in Switzerland, and our main centers are in Sweden and Spain, in Madrid. And so one of the main technology centers are in Malmö, and I'm heading that. And our core proposition is to provide safety and security to people. Safety from intrusion, or safety from fires, or safety from all sorts of harms. And by doing that, we have millions and millions and millions of sensors out there detecting intrusion and detecting movement, detecting fire. And our core purpose is to process all that data. So you could say we are a very large data processor in that respect.
Renate, as you can see, we've collected different angles from the market, different data collectors, data sharers, data producers. And hopefully we could see this as a bit of a working session where we could talk about the opportunities of the EU and the legislation in the single market, and hopefully with some constructive action points moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good lineup in terms of different kind of, players, some more in the kind of more sensitive areas of data sharing, where, as was also mentioned by the minister, we have an idea also in the data strategy that we could create certain data spaces, for instance, on finance, on health, that could kind of enable and facilitate the sharing of data, the access to data in an easier way, because you would have common kind of security features. But also kind of course, companies that have been driven by kind of the data economy, or a company that is more, a classical kind of industrial kind of company, but that has to kind of, move into the digital kind of phase to kind of untap the potentials and the growth prospects. What we are trying to do with the data strategy and with the pieces of legislation is really to create the basis for all that to flourish, so that it's really more principles, and that's something that I observe generally, in general, as a policymaker and regulator, that this is such a dynamic kind of transition that if you really want to help the economy, and that's our biggest intention with keeping the trust of the citizens, you really need to be principle-based and procedural, so that we can adapt to respective things. And that's the principles of security, trust, access, data sharing, interoperability, openness. I think that's what Europe stands for.
And that is a perfect bridge for you, Björn, because principles and data have allowed you to create a business model that slightly puts some of the traditional thinking about data on its head. Short version of what you've built.
Yeah, but also to say the short version, in IKEA, we're 80 years old this year. So obviously IKEA was founded and started in the physical space, so to speak, with furniture and home furnishing and life at home at its core. And creating a better everyday life for the many people is our vision, and it's still in what we do. And now we see the digitalization being an enabler and critical for the success of that and for life at home. Life at home today enables a lot of interaction with digital solutions and usage of data. And IKEA stepped into the space of smart homes and smart products built on our shared vision that we have since before. And the journey started about 2017 when we launched our first connected products and our solutions for the home. And obviously then we started to get faced with the questions of handling data, something that was completely new to IKEA. A Billy bookcase and or a clip-on sofa don't really generate so much data yet. But stepping into connected products, obviously, and we started with smart lighting. Suddenly we had to deal with that type of challenge, but we definitely turned it into an opportunity because we also saw that what customers would do, having the access to the data, helping us to live smarter and live better. We started with smart lighting because it was actually dimming problematic that people couldn't dim their lights, and with a digitally connected light bulb you didn't need an electrician to do it. So we started with an everyday problem, and we didn't start by inviting people into a connected home because we think that we're starting with solving everyday problems in that sense. But it was new to IKEA. Now today we are maturing into it, but obviously that was not our starting point of starting with digital solutions and data in that sense. We started definitely from the physical end.
A lot of one of the things that we discussed latches on to what Björn said, which is it an opportunity? Is it a constraint, or does it spark innovation? And I know you had some thoughts on that.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, we see in regulation as sparking innovation, truly. Today, our data sharing is market-led. So we kind of build the tracks for data sharing of insurance and pension data. And being a first mover comes with, a lot of barriers. It could be regulatory barriers, could be, technical, commercial, and so on. That's why we welcome a regulation, as that will drive standardization. It will increase trust in the data sharing process. That's also one of the barriers that we face every day. And overall, it would also, level the playing field, as we talk a lot about in the EU, because this will give all citizens in the EU the opportunity to access new digital and innovative services and products, not only the large and most lucrative markets that we otherwise would have chosen to expand to, for example. So we see that regulation can really foster innovation and create more data-driven financial products, which is needed in this digital society that we live in. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And Nata, you and I were speaking in the previous session about the power of storytelling. Europe is sometimes on a global scale ridiculed for all our regulation, etc. But here we see it is actually creating a level playing field. It is allowing innovation. And that story needs to come out much stronger.
I would disagree with you, Aurora. I think in the digital field, actually, I think we have a very good story. We're actually talking in the digital field even about the Brussels effect globally. I've been personally involved in the data protection reform, and there was a lot of resistance when we started it and when we negotiated it. 5 years, following the GDPR. It's been an export success story because it has become a global reference point. And I think the pieces that we are working on now, the DSA, the Digital Markets Act, so the kind of the platform economy pieces, they are definitely already reference points for at least our conversations with allied partners. And I think the Data Act is the necessary, what we are trying to do now to untap the potential of the data economy is the necessary next step, because that's really less only protecting, that's enabling really the possibilities for the thriving economy actors that we have to scale up, to make the benefit from the single market and show the richness, the ideas that we have, and also to allow for the innovation, because you need to break up these kind of locked-in structures in order to drive really innovative solutions, because with the IoT market a lot of new new kind of related services, after sales services can develop, and they should not all be in the same hands. They should be kind of shared more broadly.
Yeah, I would actually echo that. I think I'd commend what the EU and the Brussels have done in the DMA and the DSA space. It's creating a level playing field, and it's helping all the entrepreneurs and innovators against digital gatekeepers and platforms, which is so helpful to foster innovation. So I think there's a lot of good things coming out of Brussels in this space.
Could you dive deeper into that?
Sure, I
Tell us
think
how
so.
you
I
work
think
with
we
data.
so obviously from a data perspective, there are a lot of things in our product that is so fundamentally built on data, and our ability to have trust with consumers and creators around that data is fundamental to be able to operate and scale up a business. So you see that in definitely in the space of machine learning and AI, where we can build functions and capabilities that are for consumers better good and creators. It's very, very powerful, and it helps us build a service that is recommended and used by consumers all around.
If I can add, there are also some potential interesting ancillary services on top of core products. So first of all, we provide trust, and we are rooted in trust. So I also just want to say that we definitely welcome regulation, and we definitely welcome standardization for making things common across European markets. And then, as you alluded to, there are some elements of security data that we need to be cautious around how to share, not to actually jeopardize the rest of our thank you not to jeopardize the rest of our customer base safety and security. And we are very happy with the dialogue we have had on that already. So I think that that has been a very good process. On the ancillary services, the things on top, I think just to mention another thing, we not so much as part of our security product, but just because the fact that we have sensors, indoor sensors in close to 5 million household and small businesses now, it means that we also measure temperature. And we are probably having the most coherent measurement of temperature across European countries. And we are receiving 5,000 signals per second on temperature only. And on a daily basis can actually see, okay, it's 24 degrees in Sweden in average and so on. And that kind of data sources can, of course, be anonymized and then be used for other purposes as well. So I really think there are some interesting opportunities there.
Thank you. Before we continue, I'm going to ask Laura, are there any questions from the audience?
Thank you for clapping, by the way, whoever supported.
Yeah, thank you for all the questions. I would start with how can we better facilitate sharing data between different sectors?
Excellent question. Who would like to take it?
Well, if I should say one thing, I mean, back to standardization is kind of the key word. Obviously, technology development over the last 20 years has moved more and more towards standardization. Right now we have, when it comes to home automation, I'm sure Björn is very involved in that as well. We have had so many attempts over the last 10-15 years to try and create ecosystems. And yet we still have the Samsung ecosystem and the Google ecosystem and the Apple ecosystem and so on. And now, maybe with the new buzzword in town called Matter, there might be an ecosystem that actually creates a standardized way of doing it to collaborate across many different providers and maybe even different industries. So standardization would probably be the buzzword.
But I can build on that because standardizing in the space of within the home is very central to us. Obviously, we want it to be built on the right values and in terms of respecting the user, respecting the personal space, and so on. But the sharing of data and the interoperability and having a seamless experience is so fundamental going forward because, as you said, a home today that is built brand by brand, that is not how we live our lives. We mix products, we mix brands, and we mix our lives in that sense, and that's the reality. So we are very active in the standardization of the language within the smart home in that sense, and that means that then of course we need to look into how or if we want to share the data between it. That needs to be on the terms of the user, how much you want to share, and also the benefits that would immediately give you in that sense of course, what can the home tell you and how you can change your behavior and what benefits you will get out of it. So we think that it's a value for both the customers and for the business, of course.
And sorry, if I can add just one thing in terms of data sharing here, because there is a reason why we have actually been quite cautious of sharing security information from the automated homes with the Amazons and the Googles of this world, precisely because of the non-EU regulation that they operate under, and it's a little bit unclear whether some of that data would end up in commercial usage out of our control. So also for that reason.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point, and also for our product, which you might think, does that need to be interoperable? But actually Spotify is operating on hundreds of hardware and software and services platforms where you have login credentials to log into your account, and even there needs to be a very clear guidelines for how that data is being used, so we can interoperable safety with all these other services.
Lotta, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I can just give an example from financial data sharing as well. Because what we allow now is for other parties within the financial sector to also take part of, insurance policy data, for example. So banks can now offer new types of digital services for us consumers, where we can see all our policies, for example, in our favorite banking app. We can switch insurance much more easily through a much smoother experience, for example, and so on. So that's also one example of sharing. It's still within the financial sector, but we are changing the way we engage with insurance and move that to another institution within the financial sector, more or less.
And it's enabled partly by technology, but also by trust, people knowing that you can move between sectors and data being safe. Laura, I was wondering, do we have more questions from the audience?
Another one would be, do you take part in the European data spaces? If yes, with which goal?
Who would like to answer that question?
Well, they do not exist yet. I mean, they are. we are. So the question is a little bit, maybe for the future kind of debates, because we are working on a concrete kind of, data space for health. That's a legislative proposal that is really being negotiated. But the other, data spaces, they could evolve in the future. So it's simply not on offer yet in that sense. So I think that's well.
I can comment as well. So we are very active in the discussions regarding the open finance framework or the financial data access regulation, and are really trying to make sure it has the consumer perspective in mind, and that it also has the relevant, guardrails or safeguards for consumers when it comes to what companies that access the data actually can do with the data that is shared, and that there are necessary, consent mechanisms, for example, and other security and, infrastructure requirements on all parties involved in the data sharing process, such as ourselves, and we will become a data provider, but also on the data holders and so on. So definitely taking part in some way.
I'm going to see if Laura has one more question, but afterwards I'd like to come into the SME angle of this, because you all are big guys, big girls. Laura, third question from the audience.
So I would say you can choose a bit, because either it's about trust for your consumers, or it's very much about the governance, about the Data Act or the Data Governance Act. So I leave you a bit the choice.
Renate, do you want to give some insights into the...
Well, that's probably somebody who is quite close to the current negotiating process of the Data Act. So I I would say the trust of consumers, we don't start from scratch. We have, as I said in my introductory remarks, we have a very strong foundation of data protection that we are not, pushing away with what we're doing now with the Data Act and other pieces of legislation. So it's building on that and has to kind of, coexist with that. We also have a very strong consumer key in European legislation that is also fully respected. We have more safety for consumers through the pieces of the Digital Services Act and, Digital Markets Act, making those kind of platforms and marketplaces fairer and safer. So I think it's actually building quite nicely on all that. And when it comes to governance, I think, we always have to be mindful of we are doing quite a lot of regulation, and it has to, we have to make sure that member states are also able to deal with the regulation in terms of, later on managing it. We will create boards where we have to show that we work together on that. But on governance, I would simply say as light as possible.
Thank you for sharing. We unfortunately are coming slowly to an end of this conversation. I wanted to talk about the smaller companies and how to deal with them. And you guys will be trailblazers and inspirations, and probably there's knowledge sharing that needs to be done in each and every market. But if we could have some sort of concluding remarks, what is a priority? What do we need moving forward? What do we need to see over the next 12 months, 18 months in terms of knowledge sharing, regulation, ... Anders?
That's a tough question, but I would say Data Act is about to be finalized, so I would expect that to get into place, and now we need to make it work. So we are quite eager to participate on that one. When it comes to a topic we haven't talked so much about, I mean, we all represent private companies, you could say. So I think there is an element of private-public data sharing, which is we are doing a bit of it with the law enforcement agencies and the fire departments and police departments in some of the countries, and it's actually an area we have good experience with and good track record. So I think that's an area where also regulation can help standardize, because actually the police force are not so super standardized across all member states, and the way they operate with systems and data and so on. So if I were to mention a topic, it would be public-private kind of focus.
Lotta, for you, what's the main priority moving forward? What do you need in order for your business to thrive?
As I previously said, for us, this upcoming regulation within financial services will be very important to create this a more standardized way of sharing data to increase trust and also to create more safeguards for and protect consumers.
Any specifics there that you're excited about?
I mean, for us, this is gonna really move the needle, and we will be able to, enhance our current products and innovations and roll them out across the European markets, which is I'm very excited about, and this will happen here pretty soon. But then I can also emphasize that, or what we want to emphasize to the market, is that this is a win-win for both the industry and consumers. And the insurance industry has historically been very afraid and resistant to change for different reasons. And we have been struggling with that. We're really trying to change that, and we see a gradual shift actually in mindset as we are starting to work with the incumbent insurance companies. So I'm also excited about that and continue that. That path. And
we look forward to hearing the successes as you roll out, enabled by data in Europe. Gustav, what's important for you?
Thank you, Aurora. For us, I think we're excited to see it's sort of a clear and fair regulatory framework where all these acts within the digital space, from GDPR all the way to data and the AI piece, that they are in a consistent framework and easy to interpret, so that innovation and entrepreneurship and Europe can stay competitive. I think for us also, particularly in the AI space, I think it's important to be vigilant on aspects of AI which are very, very sensitive and critical, and regulate those, but also foster and allow for innovation in spaces where it can happen safely.
I think this is the name of the whole digital conference. There's ifs and buts, opportunities and risks, security versus trust, resilience, sovereignty. It is a fine line to dance. Bjorn, final words from you?
No, I think first of all, obviously IKEA is very supportive of the Data Act, and we are keen to support the European Commission and the EU member states of creating a responsible data-driven economy here. And what it takes for us, I think it's very important that when we create frameworks and principles and regulatory that companies can lean against when they develop their business. Obviously, we are doing it from the physical space into the digital space. So there are many companies that is doing that journey, and it's been a privilege to do that journey with IKEA, and it is a privilege to do it. And I think if we can inspire other companies to hold on to the values in how we're doing that, and that's also being reflected into the digital space, that's very, very important. So I think going forward, we would like to collaborate. We are born, it's in our genes to collaborate, to work with others, togetherness. So the more we can collaborate, I think that's a success factor going forward, for sure.
Renate, with 4 different perspectives, 4 different sizes, 4 different uses of data, all excited about regulation, excited about what we're building in Europe. Have you added anything to your to-do list? Any aha moments for the upcoming year?
Just a reminder that it has to be easy to apply.
Yes.
So, because when you're doing a lot of pieces of regulation like I do, then you want to finish them, you have the best thoughts, but you also have to think through that they have to be implemented by actors, they have to be understandable and easy to apply. And my wish also for, because we're coming to the end of a legislative cycle in Europe with European Parliament elections coming next year, that we can showcase how our work on the information space with the different pieces has really become a contribution to data-driven economy innovation in Europe, but also trust of the citizens in that kind of innovation.
Thank you very much. I think this was both inspiring and enlightening, and we're creating a level playing field, innovation and opportunities with data, and we will use more data. I will now hand over to the next plenary session, but first a warm applaud to the panel. Thank you. And as you leave the stage, I will hand over the microphone to Professor Tommaso Calarco of the Institute of Quantum Control of the Peter Grünberg Institute, Germany. He's also the chair of the Quantum Technologies flagship Quantum Community Network. Bit of a mouthful. Thomas Calarco, welcome up on stage, as well as Director General of DG Connect, Roberto Viola. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Hi. We are in for something very special. It's the first time today that we will demonstrate live the output from the first ramp-up phase of our European quantum initiatives, the flagship. And we are extremely honored and pleased and happy, and there are many more adjectives to be able to do this with Roberto Viola today, our Director General, responsible for these topics in Brussels at the European Commission. And my first question will be, well, we are in Stockholm, right? So not far from here, just a few months ago, some colleagues, Alana Spee and Anton Zeilinger, went to the king to get a prize. And, well, this is not only the crowning of, it is the first one, the first Nobel Prize which was given for quantum technologies. It is the crowning of a brilliant career, but also, I mean, a lot of that has been funded through the European Commission. So how do you feel about that, and what does it mean for quantum in Europe?
Thank you, Tommaso. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm so pleased to be here. Look, it was a moving moment, I must say. It was so rewarding for me, for my team, to see such eminent scientists from Europe, which we worked hand in hand, receiving the highest recognition for their work. And I think this is a recognition that, of course, they deserve because of the quality of their work, but it's a recognition to all the quantum researchers in Europe. And I must say also is the proof that there are people that think that Europe is nowhere. I mean, the usual thing, no? You know that we talk about the bias of AI. I think sometimes we should also look at the bias of human being, because when it gets to Europe, that's always so. Yeah, they are good to regulate, but no. I mean, for technology, go elsewhere. For quantum technology, go to Europe, the best place. When you take the number of quantum researchers per population, Europe is by far the place, by the way, it's the place where quantum physics is born. Let's not forget it. Not, again, far from here, by the way.
Yes.
So it's the place where everything is born. It's the place that has the highest number of publications in the world. It's the place where we have the highest number of Nobel Prizes. So well done to both. Really a moving moment.
So there is a lot of glorious history here, but there is not only glorious history and achievements in the past, but also in the future. So what are the goals that the European Commission has for the future? And I mean, why should society care? Why is it quantum so important anyway? Because here we are talking to several people which maybe are not familiar with the topic. They will after the session, but I mean, can you tell us something about that?
Well, you know, Tommaso, there's a bit of a tradition that in digital assemblies we do a bit of quantum. If you search on YouTube, there's a video of me using glasses, trying to, and this bottle, a similar bottle of water in Romania, trying to explain quantum communication. So, why we are so interested about all this? I think there are many things about the future, things we don't know, things we know. I think one thing we know is that the future will be shaped by quantum technologies, even more than the past. Or, let me put it in another way, will be better shaped, because unfortunately the history of quantum physics started as an adventure of brilliant scientists. Unfortunately, I mean, the use of quantum physics has also led to something the human being does not deserve. But then we started to use quantum physics for good reasons, to cure people, to actually have a much better quality of life. The next generation quantum is something it's even difficult to imagine, because really it's unlocking computing power we've never seen. When combined with data and algorithm, I hope, and that is my hope, will enhance the human being, not destroy the human being, will enhance the human being. It's about our environment, because with devices like the one is being displayed here, you can understand what's going on in the environment. You can understand whether there's water underground or new materials which are so necessary. So the whole sustainability of our society relies on such devices. It's about the security of our communication. It's about the next generation web, the quantum internet, which is linking computing, secure communication, algorithms all together. So we are going to see, maybe not us, but I mean, we are heading towards something which is a completely different game altogether.
Absolutely, and this is a global game. And, you know, on one hand, I would like to ask you, what are sort of the unique, the distinctive features of the European activity in this sense? And also maybe on the other side, I mean, of course, we have a lot to be proud of in Europe, but I mean, what about where do we stand compared to other major actors such as the US and China?
Well, as I said, first of all, my warning is don't fall at the commonplace Europe lags behind, because it's a lie. I mean, it's a lie, and the first, and you were right to start the interview about the Nobel Prizes. But let me go a little bit into names that maybe remind you history or other things, like Jules Verne, Jupiter, Leonardo, Mare Nostrum, what they are. These are the European supercomputers. Some are already functioning. Lumi in Finland, Leonardo in Italy, number 3, number 4, and very soon Jupiter in Germany, probably number 1, together with Julius Verne in France, and both of them will be hybrid supercomputer. We start to be hybrid supercomputer with quantum elements. We will have the most powerful computing grid of the world. We already, by the way, are nearly to have supercomputing dominance, although it's not, it's a peaceful and nice game, I mean. But if we want to run this kind of World Cup game, already Europe won the championship of supercomputing and is well positioning to win also the quantum supercomputing, because we work together. And that's our strength. When we realize that together we can do things, then really Europe deploys its best. So the first aim is to be sure to fulfill the promise we have made with the digital decade, which is Europe to be the first to have a quantum hybrid supercomputer, so with elements of normal supercomputing plus, I mean, some specialized acceleration, that's the term we use, which means for specific algorithms we can start using for real, I mean, quantum computing. This is our objective for 2025, and we are getting close to this in a very, very concrete way. Our objective also is to have a network of nodes that can exchange encrypted information using quantum. And the other objective is this one, I mean, to make sure that we can use this technology to understand better our planet.
That's wonderful. Now, one last question. I mean, are there obstacles that you see, are there difficulties, challenges maybe, that you see that could prevent us, stop us from reaching those ambitious goals?
Well, sky is the limit in a certain sense, and the obstacle could be ourselves. I mean, we as Europeans, sometimes we have this reflex to say, but is it really worthwhile to be all together? So I hope, I mean, the kind of striking success of our supercomputing policy shows that there's only one way. And this way is to make sure that supercomputing was a success, quantum will be a success, because we will use the same system, working all together. Now, this also points to what we also need to do, which you make sure that there's enough public support, so clustering European funding and national funding, but also private funding. If there's something where Europe has still to do a lot, is to make sure that also private investment flows into quantum technology. And that's where, frankly, I showed all the medals, is where we instead have to work, because we are behind, for instance, the United States. So more private investment into quantum technology is something we need to have to make sure we have a very solid quantum ecosystem.
Thank you very much, Roberto. This is a very strong message. We will take it home, but also a message of great optimism,
absolutely,
which is very well founded. So thanks a lot for being with us, and I hope you will be also excited to see the things that we're going to see on stage.
Thrilled. And thank you to you, Tommaso, for all the work you do in the quantum community.
Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
So now, one of our two Nobel laureates could not be here, but he happens also to be a young entrepreneur, in the sense that he is the co-founder, and this is not something that not everybody knows, a co-founder and co-owner of a startup in quantum simulation. And quantum simulation is a special type of quantum computing which solves a special kind of problems. We will hear from him and from the CEO of this startup about this in the video which is going to be shown now.
Hello, my name is George. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Pascal. And today I'm very pleased to welcome one of my co-founders, Professor Alain Aspect, who was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics last year in 2022. Alain, if you want to say a word.
What do you want I say? I'm glad to be in Pascal, as usual. Each time I come, I see that it's a fantastic progress.
You inspired many young physicists. I'm among them. I remember reading a paper talking about your experience when I was a student. You also inspire Bruno Deruel, who created another company, Mucans, How do you see the ecosystem evolving? These people starting their startup when it was not very obvious, to create quantum companies.
No, I'm glad that during all my career, I told the people around me that if they have a good idea about starting an application, innovation, this is not having dirty hands, just on the opposite, transferring basic science into innovation and companies who make money. This money, they pay taxes, and these taxes will be good to subsidize research again. So to be serious, I have always encouraged people around me to go to application if they feel like it.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I can see in the company is that it's not only the academic research transferring the know-how they learn in the lab to the companies, but it's also in the other way. I have the impression that at Pascal, we are also helping the academic labs we are working on.
Yes, I think that one of the really interesting things for somebody who likes science and technology, a really interesting thing in the company is to develop reliable technology. Advanced research is done with experiments that work every other day, is just on the limit of working or not working. And then in a company, people have to transform this experiment into an experiment working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is just as difficult and as interesting as developing an academic experiment. Because in order to have an equipment that works all the time, you need to analyze in detail what is it that does not work so well. You have to understand it, you have to find the solution. And this is what impresses much, that people dedicated to good science and technology can accomplish as much in being in companies as in being in basic research labs.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. At Pascal, we are of course a strong focus on engineering, because we need to develop this reliable device. But I remember that during your experiment, your famous experiment, you also had engineers in your team.
Yes, in fact, it was interesting. Each time I was making a progress in the experiment, I was also a teacher, and so I was leaving for 2 days to teach. And then the third day, when I came back, the engineer, Gérard Roger, had improved the experiment, and then he had made reliable what I had done just at the limit like that 3 days before. And it is very important because indeed at the end, every single part of the experiment was reliable.
So at Pascal, we are building quantum computers, as you know, and we have a different angle compared to other approach in quantum computing, focusing on the so-called analog mode instead of implementing gates. How do you see that? What is your feeling about this approach?
Well, it's very good because, the ideal quantum computer based on gates, error correction, etc., I don't think that I will see it during my life, or at least during my active life. In contrast, the analog mode, the kind of things that you are doing, I have a strong hope that we will have soon really interesting and important results.
Okay, thank you for your support. So we are building these great devices. Hopefully, we will deliver 2 of them to the European HPC Center, one in Jülich and one in France, thanks to the HPC QS project. But beyond let's say the performance, beyond computing, what other upside do you see with quantum computing?
My experience about application of basic research is that it's not useful to make plans. Well, you can make plans, but nobody knows what it will be good exactly for. I think that this is why you have to disseminate the machine, because you will find people who find use cases you did not think about before. So I'm not taking the risk. Well, I can vaguely tell you, I'm pretty sure you will solve optimization problems, for instance. Okay, I think we can hope that. But it's really the people who are going to use a machine who will find the really interesting use cases.
Okay, but you know that the world is facing a very pressing problem. I mean, with global warming, with the energy crisis. Do you think that quantum computing can play a role?
Yes, this is another question. But I thought about it recently, especially because some students, ask me, okay, it's nice what you are doing, but our problem is not to solve the debate between Bohr and Einstein. Our problem is to solve the problems of the planet. How can you help? And I immediately realized that maybe one way of thinking to the quantum advantage is not so much to do calculation faster than the classic computer, but is to do the same kind of computation with much less energy, much less electricity. So in that sense, I think that quantum computing may be good for the planet.
Okay, yes, absolutely. I'm also convinced about that. And
we have to demonstrate it, okay? But
yes.
I think it's an interesting goal.
Well, so thank you, Alan, even though he's not here. Maybe he's looking from home. And we are already at the next point, in which Christian Michelsen, who is the coordinator of this HPCQS project, which was mentioned before, is going to tell us a little bit about the connection between and the hybridization between a quantum computer and a classical supercomputer. Krista, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. So quantum computing promises to solve some of our toughest problems. So for example, for optimization in supply chain logistics, traffic control, energy grid management, and so on. But also for machine learning. And with machine learning, we can simulate biological neural networks to help understand brain functionality. With machine learning, we can also study the evolution of vegetation, and this in the context of climate change. So another application is drug and materials design. One of the promising potential application in materials design is battery design. And the computational challenge in battery design is multi-scale modeling. Multi-scale models, they allow us to understand how changes on one computational level, one simulational level, changes to the next higher levels. And if one wants to make these components, full components for battery design, then the thing one has to do is to integrate all these models, all these simulational levels. And this means that one has to go from the electronic level to the macroscopic level. And this is a hard task to do. And actually, our current HPC systems and their software are too slow for this task. So the hope is that quantum computing can help us with this task. And one example how quantum computing can help is to take a quantum simulator to simulate the correlations between the electrons in battery materials. So in order to solve these complex problems, Europe has set the goal to establish a pan-European federated hybrid high-performance computer, quantum computer and simulator infrastructure with a uniform, easy and affordable access for the European scientific and industrial users. A second goal is to have a variety of these resources which is available for the public, and of course we then also deliver the public support and services. So in various HPC centers in Europe, we already have some quantum computers installed, and in many others, they will be installed. There are two types of quantum computers. We have the analog ones, in which qubits are all controlled simultaneously, and we have the gate-based ones, in which each qubit is controlled individually. Now, in 2021, in Jülich, Germany, an annealer was installed. And by the end of this year, as was mentioned in the video, there will be a quantum simulator installed of the company Pascal. And this in the context of the HPC QS project. Now, this one will not only be installed in Germany, but there will be another one installed in Paris. Then we have a second class of quantum computers, these digital quantum computers, and here we have a large variety. We have many startups producing them, and also many of them are built in national and European projects. And all these technologies depend on different types of qubits. We have trapped ions, we have superconducting ones, we have these neutral atom qubits, and so on. And in the next demo, you will see an example of a superconducting quantum computer that has been built at Chalmers University. Now, for users, it's important that we have access to different types of devices. The reason is, in the end, we do not know which technology will give us the best quantum computer. And these users will also contribute to how to design the quantum computers. Now, I have been talking about this hybrid HPC quantum computer infrastructures in which high-performance computers and quantum computers are integrated. We do this because for practical quantum computer, we have to combine HPC with quantum advantage. Now, in Europe, we will soon have these first two hybrid HPC quantum computing infrastructures, one in Germany and one in France. But Euro HPC joint undertaking has already announced that there will be 6 other ones based on different technologies. So the goal is to develop and provide HPC quantum computing services for the benefit of all Europeans. We want to provide uniform, easy and affordable access to these combined HPC quantum computing resources. And of course, it's important that we also train our users to become specialists in quantum computing and its potential applications. And as Europeans, we can be proud to say that this is an activity and an achievement which is first of a kind in the world. So when and for whom will these hybrid HPC quantum computing infrastructures become available? Now, we have a rather short time scale. In 2024, we will have access for the project members of the HPC QS project. Then in 2025, we have the stakeholders of the project that will get access. So this will be different HPC centers, some universities, some companies, and so on. Then in 2026, these 6 other hybrid infrastructures become available. And then in 2027, the goal is to combine all these 7 hybrid HPC quantum computing infrastructures into one big federated infrastructure. So, and then if you are interested for first access, then I would invite you to follow us on the website, the Twitter account and the LinkedIn account of the Euro HPC joint undertaking and the HPC QS project.
Thank you very much, Christel. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And now, as we thank Christel for her contribution, I would like to invite on the stage all of the demonstrator teams. So we have several people. We are going to have 3 demonstrations. So there they are. And well, the first one is going to be about quantum computing. So this is going to be given by Miroslav Dobšíček from the Wolloming Center for Quantum Technologies in Chalmers University of Technology. And what he's going to show you is live with cloud access, a quantum computer. He will first set it up, calibrate it from here, from his computer, and then he will run a small quantum algorithm there. And this is happening here in Sweden because whatever the presidency is in whatever country, well, actually not all of them, but most of the countries of the European Union, this is really no joke, we do have strong activities, we do have startups, we do have labs which are able to perform that. We are in Sweden, so we are very happy and proud that Sweden can showcase their toy. Please, Miroslav.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Tommaso, for the nice introduction. Now, I really have the pleasure to talk to you about a quantum computer that is being developed here at Sweden. What you see on the left is our latest 25-qubit chip, and there are many reasons to be excited about it. First, in general, a quantum computer is nowadays something many people would like to have. We expect these quantum computers to significantly outperform classic computers on certain optimization tasks and also in quantum chemistry domain. And second, I would like to bring your attention to the particular technology we are using to build these chips. The technology is called superconducting circuits, and a big advantage here is that the manufacturing process is largely identical with the production of classical microprocessors. In fact, it is fully possible to integrate classical electronics and quantum superconducting circuits on the very same chip. And also big companies such as IBM and Google are doing exactly the same thing on scale. And then around this chip, we have built a whole stack quantum computer demonstrator, which allows for online cloud access. And we have also started to look at integration with high performance centers. Now, having physically the quantum computer in our lab, there is a need to tune it up. The reason why this is worth mentioning explicitly is that this process actually needs to be repeated periodically. The reasons for that are that the control parameters, both of the quantum chip and the classical microwave electronics, are drifting in time due to thermal noise and also electromagnetic interference. In order to make this tune-up more tangible, we have prepared a live update of a readout part of the quantum chip. So with that, allow me to navigate to a web interface from which I will live trigger an update of the readout part of this quantum computer. So now I'm clicking here, and right now, across the internet, a command has been sent to our labs in Gothenburg. And right now, the quantum chip is performing thousands of measurements per second in order to recalibrate itself for the readout part. While we are waiting for the data already here, so while we were waiting, now I can explain. So what we are looking at is modulated output directly from the quantum chip. Each point corresponds to a measurement, and the color coding corresponds to a classification, whether that measurement should be interpreted as a classical 0 or 1. With this very picture, we can say that we are at the very boundary where quantum engineering stops and classical 0 and 1s start. And when we look at the two pictures, left and right, where the right one is the fresh one, we see that the two clouds are slightly more separated, which means easier classification, which means better working readout. Yes, and now, having a fully tuned up quantum computer, we are ready to perform a real useful computation. Again, everything will be online, live. As a demonstration, we have prepared a small example from quantum machine learning. We are taking a small neural network, encoding it into quantum circuit, and then we add a classical optimizer, and we train this network on the problem of classifying points in plane into two groups. To keep things simple, our training set exactly the data from the readout problem you have seen before. Essentially, the idea is that any new point arriving based on its spatial location should be classified whether it belongs more to the red group or blue group. During this presentation, we'll be using 12 qubit on the 25 qubit chip. All these 12 qubits will be controlled concurrently. They will be running the very same algorithm in parallel, and then we average out the results for increased robustness. Now, before we jump to the live execution, let me also briefly describe the setup we are using. We take the opportunity here to also showcase the integration between classical HPC system and the quantum computer. So what we have done is that we have allocated resources on the LUMI supercomputer in Finland and on the CAL 9000 quantum computer here in Sweden. And then we let LUMI to be in charge. So LUMI generates new points which are to be classified, and then it repeatedly sends across the internet quantum jobs to our lab in Gothenburg in Sweden, and then it collects the result. Good. With this understanding, we are now ready to run it. So, from my computer, I will now SSH remotely to the LUMI supercomputer. And from there, I will load a script. Yes. I will load a script which takes my program and submit it to LUMI processing pipelines. And from there, everything is fully automated. So right now, 12 qubits are operating, they are measuring, and results are being collected by LUMI. So let's take a look at the visualization of the outcome. I will refresh this. And yes, here we go. So the big points, more precisely their XY coordinates, were generated by LUMI, and then the quantum neural network has correctly classified based on their location, whether they belong to the blue group or red group. It worked as expected. I would like to emphasize here that this is really a small example, a basic building blocks towards solving more complex problems. But the important point is that these small quantum computers are here, indeed here. And at this particular sample is also example of a fully European in-house design and development. And with that, I would like to conclude my presentation and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Miroslav. Indeed, you see, I mean, you can come up to the stage afterwards. You can almost touch it. It is in a nice plastic encasing. So this is really European technology made here, made possible by the European Commission and by the investments at national level. And, you know, this is really something which is taking place in each of the fields, the application areas. So we have mentioned quantum computing. There is also quantum communication and quantum sensing. We'll come back to that later, as Roberto Viola has mentioned before. And now, you know, something slightly even more tangible in the sense that, so here we have really a handover, because there is a little swap between SE, Sweden, which has the presidency now, and ES, Spain, which has the presidency in the next semester. And this handover is sort of embodied here by Gemma Vallo Serra from Ericsson here in Sweden, who is going to connect via a quantum secured video conference live with our colleague Vicente Martín Ayuso from the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, who is sitting in the booth over there. And now we are seeing them and we are talking to them. And there is a very large team of people who is panicking, hoping that the connection will be stable, okay? And the reason is that this is really the first time they will tell that it is the first time that we are demonstrating a connection between two different segments produced by different startups which come out of the European programs, you know, Lux Quanta and QTI, and they are both cooperating and coming together in this structure, which will be explained now. And after the talk, you are welcome to go to the booth, and you can see and touch. There is a live demonstration. Again, there is a 30-kilometer optical fiber spool there in a very nice pink color, which you can see, and the machines are running there for you to see, touch, and enjoy. So now, Gemma and Vicente, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tommaso. Welcome, everybody. I'm very happy to be here on stage, and also the people at the booth. So good afternoon. You've seen some kind of qubits now. Now we're also going to send qubits, but they are not the same. We're very happy, of course, to show this quantum technology, and this is a little of a different flavor. This is quantum communication. So first of all, let me say hello to Vicente in the booth. Hi, Vicente. Vicente, can you see me? Can you hear me? Are the qubits reaching you?
You see, this is real life, real time.
Exactly. Vicente, if you can hear me, maybe you can, make the thumbs up. Otherwise, maybe I suggest
Yes.
Tommaso.
So you see, this is really the real situation. That of course this is a demo. So this is the famous demo effect. The demo effect is a corollary to Murphy's law. Yeah. It works until 15 minutes ago, and I promise you it has worked for the last 3 weeks. And now, while the thing is being...
But there's one thing. We can always see the demo in the book.
Exactly. We can see in the book.
So maybe we can invite...
Exactly. Why don't you tell us a little bit? So because, video conferences is something that we have been doing all the time through the last several years. But the fact is that, with standard telecommunications, you can encrypt stuff, right?
Yes.
And you can also, even if it is encrypted, you can crack it, you can eavesdrop on it. And here is Vicente coming and explaining that to us from the booth. So, okay, so what about that? Can you tell us what would be happening there? And maybe in the meantime, our friend Alessandro from the booth will be able to help us.
So we have teleported Vicente to the stage now. And we... Yes.
These are the things of live things. In the end, the classic board was not. So we are going to explain what we have outside in the booth.
Yes.
Okay, so we are going to explain what is outside in the booth, which is a standard video conferencing, but with a twist, because we are securing the video conference using quantum technologies, in particular quantum Cree distribution. So this is what you could see in the booth in a few minutes when you want to go out.
So do you know how future-proof is this solution? When the computers, quantum computers will break current encryption methods?
Yeah, the funny thing here is that we are using an encryption, as I said, it's quantum key distribution, and this quantum key distribution is based on qubits. Qubits are the quantum equivalent of bits, and the funny thing about qubits, in our case, we are using for quantum communications, we are using single photons, and the funny thing is when you want to go to the quantum world and then you have a qubit cannot be cloned, and it's not only that you cannot be cloned, it's you try to see what is written in the qubit, you disturb the qubit. So that means that if somebody tries to spy on us, we will be always able to see that somebody is spying, and then we can take out a secret key out of that. And as you can see, this model does not depend on the power on the computing power of a possible attacker. So we are fine.
So you're using quantum technology to counterattack the effects of a quantum computer?
Yeah, we are fighting the quantum bads with the quantum goods.
So how important is this technology, and what is the Commission doing towards to help this technology, mature?
Yeah, we know the European Commission realized soon that this technology is a key ingredient of future secure quantum communications in general. So they set up what is called a pan-European communication network based on quantum technologies, which is called the EuroQCI, the European Quantum Communication Infrastructure.
So what exactly actions are taken by the Commission?
Well, they have this program, the Digital Europe program, and this Digital Europe program right now is funding 3 different kinds of projects. The first kind attempts to deploy this quantum communication infrastructure in different countries, and then we have other projects that develop actually the production level devices that we are going to install in this quantum communication infrastructure, and then there is a third project to coordinate all this.
So now, I guess, and everybody here are interested in the demo. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the demo that you can see outside, it has we divided here the quantum layer. The quantum layer actually is running in different places in Europe, and what we do is pass quantum signals around, and out of these quantum signals we get the secret keys. All this is coordinated with a key management and control layer that extracts the keys that go end to end, and then these keys are fed to encryptors, and those encryptors keeps a secure link connection that is the one that is going to secure the video connection between 2 endpoints in the outside booth.
So I think you guys prepared some videos for us because we could not bring everything on site. So
yeah, the experiment is quite complex and it involves things in different labs. The first one is in Florence, the QTI lab, and you can see also outside 2 boxes. The 2 boxes, one emitter and receiver. You see in the top side, the monitoring devices, and you will see also a spool of fiber, because these systems usually are installed, say, even 100 kilometers away, and then you have to have a spool of fiber to do the quantum channel connection. You will see also the systems from Lux Quanta. This is now happening in the Barcelona Lux Quanta lab. They are using a different encoding from the qubits, so technology is slightly different, but the fundamentals is the same. And then what the important thing is that they are boxed, so are production level systems. And then all this is coordinated in the Madrid lab, in the UPM, where you can see the servers that take the key, manage the network, and then those servers fed the key to an encryptors, that is the ones that you are seeing in the lower part, which is the Roland Schwarz systems. And these Roland Schwarz systems create the secure link for an application, that is the TELC application, that is running between the 2 systems there. So, okay, so this is the general structure. And one thing that is good to point out here is that all these systems have European technology. All of them have been developed here in Europe. Not only what you see, but things that are on the inside also. For example, the quantum random generators which are on the inside, they are being developed in Europe. The standards to communicate the different devices are also developed in Europe, and all of them actually are products of research grants from Europe. In particular, some of the companies are spin-offs from the quantum flagship. So that's, for us, is great.
Thank you, Vicente. So if I were to summarize, right, I would say what we've learned, that quantum computers pose a threat to today's encryption methods, but actually we have a way out with quantum key distribution. The Commission is actively working, building this infrastructure, this quantum communication infrastructure, and there's already several ongoing projects which are being funded by these European flagships and digital programs. So we've also learned that this demonstration is a blueprint for this mini QCI, QKD network that could be in the future in the whole Europe.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. We have all the components for a future Euro QCI out there.
And the components are also being manufactured in Europe.
Yep, all of them are European technology.
Fantastic. Then I think let's thank you guys very much, the University in Madrid, the guys in Italy, Telsi and QTI. There is Lux Quanta in Spain.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you to Roden Schwarz and Deutsche Telekom as well. And thank you guys for your attention.
Okay, thanks a lot. Indeed, so the point is, indeed, creating and putting together all across the different technologies, different member states and so on throughout Europe is a big undertaking, as we have heard before, is something which is also a unique European feature, this whole complexity of creating this infrastructure. And you can see segments of that outside again in the booth in the center of the other hall. And now we go to the third leg. So because quantum technologies is about using individual quanta, individual atoms, such as in the Pascal machine, individual quanta, such as in the superconducting quantum computer, individual photons, such as in quantum communication, and other individual quanta from which we will hear right now for, in this case, sensing, measuring very with a lot of accuracy and precision, things which are not measurable otherwise. And, here is the machine. You have seen in the video by Alain Aspect, this was, now it's from Exail. So Bruno Deruel is the Vice President for Photonics at Exail, and Vincent Menoret is a Senior R&D Manager for Quantum Sensing at the same company. And, this company is an evolution of this startup, which started, some years ago, which was mentioned also in the video, and now came a long way, literally, to bring for you on stage live quantum sensing. Please, Bruno.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Tommaso. So yeah, my name is Bruno Deruel. I'm the photonics director of the Exail group, and here is Vincent Menoret, who's managing our research activities in the field of quantum gravity sensors. It's a great privilege to be here today and to have the opportunity to present you our absolute quantum gravimeter that Tommaso has already described. Obviously, this gravimeter measures gravity, but what is gravity? Well, let me remind you that from a physical point of view, when an object falls, it means it experiences a vertical acceleration towards the ground. This acceleration is gravity. Since Newton, we know that gravity is determined by the masses that surround us, and in particular, by the mass of the Earth. Therefore, a gravity measurement provides us some information about the underground mass repartition. The larger the mass under our feet, the larger the gravity. A quantum gravimeter therefore finds applications in the field of earth sciences or geophysics, and it allows us to perform some kind of subsurface imaging. In order to illustrate what is at stake here, I have represented a couple of examples of applications of these gravimeters. The first example I'd like to mention is the management of the environmental risk with, for instance, the monitoring of volcanoes. You understand that a variation of the magma underground is going to generate some fluctuations of gravity at the surface of the volcano. Therefore, gravity monitoring might help us to detect some precursor signals that will allow us to anticipate some volcanic eruptions. Another very important matter is the management of the underground resources. And again, a surface gravity measurement is going to allow us to determine the water level of a subsurface water reservoir, and we all know how critical water management will be in the future. And the last example I want to mention today is the detection of the formation of sinkholes with gravimeters that could avoid the kind of catastrophic event that we're seeing on this picture. In order to make that happen, we need to develop an instrument that offers an extraordinary high level of performance. From a quantitative point of view, we need to measure gravity with a resolution of 0.000000001 meter per square second. This is where quantum physics is going to help. So, this instrument was inspired by Newton and his famous falling apple. But instead of using an apple, we are using a cloud of laser-cooled atoms. We are going to use configurations with 6 laser beams, and these laser beams are going to confine the atoms and to keep them still.
so that the corresponding temperature is close to the absolute zero. Once we have captured the atoms, we let them fall and we measure the vertical acceleration experienced by these free-falling atoms. This is where quantum physics is involved. Of course, I won't have time to enter the details, but you have to know that at this level of temperature, the atoms behave like matters of wave. And we use the wave nature of the atoms in order to perform these gravity measurements. You have to know that in order to implement this, we are facing an extraordinarily high technological difficulty because the atoms hate behaving like waves and we need to force them very tightly in order to make that happen. Nevertheless, as you can see, we were able to develop a very integrated instrument that can be transported very easily, and Vincent will show you how easy it is to use this instrument. The last message I want to deliver today is that this is only the beginning of the story. We were able to successfully develop a first generation of instruments that already show a competitive advantage with respect to classical technologies, but the best is yet to come. We know that it is necessary and we have the potential to create better instruments and deploy arrays of sensors to generate gravity maps. We also have very interesting perspectives with the development of onboard gravimeters and also space quantum gravimeters. It is now time to switch to the live demo. We guessed that it would be difficult for people in the back of the room to have a good view at the instrument, so we have represented here a picture of a unit that is currently being operated at the top of Mount Etna. Vincent?
Thank you, Bruno. First, I'd like to emphasize that the instrument you can see here is not a prototype. It's a completely operational device that was lent to us today by EPOS France, the French research infrastructure for geophysics. It's made of 2 units. You can see on the stage the electronics and laser systems, which generate all the laser and electronic signals that are then sent to the sensor head, which is installed on the ground because it's extremely sensitive to ground vibrations and ground shaking. In there, we have a vacuum chamber where we use lasers to trap and cool atoms, and we cool them down to a temperature of the order of 1 microkelvin. That's 1/1,000,000th of a degree above the absolute zero. It's one of the coldest states of matter that exist in the universe. Once we have cooled down the atoms, we drop them, and while they fall, we measure their acceleration using quantum mechanics. But actually, one of the biggest challenges we face is preserving the users from this quantum complexity. So we've put a lot of work in making the instrument easy to set up and easy to operate. And actually, the instrument is running right now. We've set it up yesterday. And this is the software from the instrument recording data as we speak. So on the top is a set of parameters that are just here to inform the user that everything is running well. And at the bottom, you can see 24 hours of live gravity data being acquired at a rate of 2 points per second. You see the signal is not constant, it's varying over time. And this is because of the gravitational pull of the moon, which the instrument is able to sense. This is very small variation. It's less than 1 part per million. So it's tiny and we can't feel it as human beings, but you see that the instrument can resolve it very well. And what geophysicists would do is actually look at even tinier variations in this signal, like 2 orders of magnitude lower than what we can see here. And that would inform them on hydrology, on volcano dynamics, on geodesy, and things like that. And as an example, I would like to go back to the picture. So this instrument was set up near the top of Mount Etna about 3 years ago in the frame of a European project, and it's been measuring since then, and the geophysicists were able to use the data to better understand the dynamics of the volcano. More interestingly, we could show that only a quantum instrument could operate in these conditions. Classical devices would not work. And so I'd like to conclude by hoping that I've been able to convince you that quantum sensing is actually a reality for today. It's not something for tomorrow, but quantum sensors exist and are operational today. And I'd like to thank you for your attention.
Thanks a lot. So you have seen that this stuff is real. It is working most of the times. and you are going to see it, you can touch it, and sort of sense it and experience it, either here on stage or no, don't touch it. No, sorry, don't touch it. No, don't touch it. Of course, don't touch it. But you may touch the quantum communication device, which is outside. This is very stable. Yeah, the one outside. And well, one thing that we wanted to do is really to show that this is not just in quotes quantum computing. Okay. You hear maybe a lot about quantum computing in the media, and this is one of several quantum technologies. There is also quantum simulation, as in the video by Alain Aspect. There is a secure quantum communication, as we have seen here, and there is what we have seen is one of the possible applications of quantum sensing, but there are others in the medical field, in many other fields, and so this is really something which, one unique feature that we have in Europe is, an overall strategy with which the European Commission is really supporting all of this, and together with member states. So this is really the perfect place, the Swedish Presidency, the Digital Assembly, the European Digital Assembly, to showcase this. Is no longer just a dream, is something which, there is a lot of dreams for the future. There is a lot of challenges. There is a lot of road to be performed, but a lot of the things that we have promised in the beginning of the flagship 5 years ago are starting really to exist. And so I think that all of us are very proud, and all of us as European citizens can be very proud that this is being possible and will continue to be so. And with this, I would really like to thank you all for your attention, and I know that I am within the time, so the famous sniper which is sitting there will not take me down at the end of my allotted time. So, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know how you feel, but mind-blowing. Thank you to Professor Tommaso, and thank you for the demonstrations. And if you, like me, feel a sense to share, there's things that have been said, aha moments, conclusions that have been made, and you would like to share it with a wider audience, I would like to remind you that we have 2 hashtags that have been used, but it's worth reminding. It is hashtag Digital Assembly 2023 and Digital EU. I'd like to thank all our active participants, both in the room as well as online. We've discussed the digital decade, the thriving single market for data, progress in quantum. We've officially launched. We have a day tomorrow. Thank you all. And wait. I'm getting in my headpiece. The demo that didn't work will be visible on stage. Yes, so you can stay in the room. There will be the demonstration that didn't work exactly the way we planned. There is a take 2, which is a great news for everyone, so you can join in for that. There will be drinks served outside in the Swedish sun. The Swedish June light is magical this time of year and day. We will have a press conference that will start in a second for all journalists. Tomorrow, more security and competitiveness, the EU digital wallet, several topical and fascinating breakout sessions and side events. Enjoy the DJ, enjoy the networking, enjoy the dinner. Thank you for today, and see you tomorrow.
Nu har vi kommit av till 50 sekunder sen. Ja, hej. Vart stressigt. Ja, jag kom precis nu. Tjena Niklas. Jo, vad är det här för kamera? Till nummer? 3. Ja, just det. Ska vi se. Där har du det. Ja, jag har ju till så fort. Ni har ställt in den här redan, eller? Ja.